Hey, what's up guys, kolst here. Just thought there was one last thing we needed before Forge in the Barrens launches tomorrow as of recording this video, but probably just happened as of when I'm going to post this video to YouTube. And that is to make a tier list of all the classes. So I know I had a whole card review for all the individual cards, but I didn't really look at every individual class, just how the cards work together and just how good they are overall. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. So we're just going to get right into it. So first off, we have Demon Hunter here. So Demon Hunter, I think off the bat, you have to say, got one of the weaker sets. They got, I think the best card, honestly, at least the most solid card they have here is Vile Call. There are other cards that have some upside, like this thing can be good. The Death Rattles package can work. But right now, honestly, there just isn't a lot of support for the whole Death Rattle thing that they're trying to force here. So I just don't see Sigil of Flame as a useful control tool as well, but like overall there's just not a bunch here. So I think right off the bat we're gonna actually put Demon Hunter, I think, into the awful category. It's not truly awful, but I don't think there's a class I would put below it, so we're gonna put that there. Next off, we move on to Druid. So Druid needed a lot because they have one of the weakest core sets, as I've talked about. They lost basically their entire ability to deal spell damage, essentially. They still have like Bog Beam, but generally speaking, they lost Swipe and a whole lot of things. And in this set, they get some decent tools. They get like one of the weaker rank cards again. Other than Celestial Alignment though, like all of these cards are playable. Battle Guard has some real pop-off potential. You can play it as a 0 mana 2/3 if you have a taunt that turn, and then you can potentially get even more discounts. But overall, Mark is okay. It's similar to Mark of Yasharaj basically. This is a lot of slow stuff, but like yeah, this card is just it's a lot of these things are just a little understated. Of course, they do have one of the major powerhouse cards of the entire expansion, which, at least as far as Arena is concerned, which is Druid of the Plains, but it's an epic. And a lot of their power also is within these legendaries, so you don't see it that often. So I'm not sure that Druid exactly is getting everything that they need here to overcome their core set. I think it's definitely better than like Demon Hunter, but I'm not actually sure. I think if you rate this standalone, I think I'll put it into the I think the fact that Druid of the Plains is an epic makes it just playable. If you could expect to actually see this card more, I think it would be a little bit higher, but I think we'll just put it into the playable category for now. Moving on, we have Hunter. Hunter honestly really got a lot of good tools here. There's really, like, I think every card here on this page is an above average card, substantially. I think the worst card is probably the Sunscale Raptor, but this is a 1 mana 1/3 beast in Hunter. You know, it's something they like. They got some reach with Piercing Shot to replace Kill Command, and just in general, they got one of the best Caravan cards. Pakoto is 3 mana 3/3, get a random weapon most of the time. So, and there's only a couple weapons, and one of them is Riddling's Rifle. So this card is major high roll potential here. And generally, just all this stuff, all this removal, there's just no bad card here. So I think here I'm actually going to put Hunter into the amazing category. Because honestly, it all fits with the identity of Hunter. They get a lot of pings, which is something they obviously need. And just, the set just does everything Hunter could possibly want to do. Moving on to Mage. Mage gets a few very good cards here. They get Reckless Apprentice is great. They get a couple really good 3-drops. They get one of the better secrets they've ever gotten in Oasis Ally. It's very often just going to be 3 mana Water Elemental, which is obviously great. And Runed Orb in particular is going to be amazing, just because anything that discovers a spell, I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but any card that has like Discover a Spell on it is going to be absolutely insane. Just any Discover, because with the core set rotation, just you're not gonna really whiff ever. So overall, and there is some potential even with like Wildfire, Reckless Apprentice synergy. And of course the legendary that you don't see too much. But yeah, overall, I don't think this is quite... There are some very strong cards here, but I don't think this is quite as good. I'm not going to rate this quite as high as Hunter. I think I'm going to put Mage into the great category. They definitely have some good cards here. But, you know, it could be better, right? They get like Flurry and, you know, but it's good cards here. Next, we have Paladin. So Paladin cards are a little... There's a lot of inconsistent cards here. Actually, the most consistent card is probably their legendary, but again, I'm trying not to talk too much about the legendaries. It's more about what kind of cards you're actually going to see. I do think Sword of the Fallen is great, and they also have one of the best caravans again. But the thing with Sword of the Fallen, it may also be a trap because you're not going to want to take secrets, especially not the new secret, because the new secret I'm pretty sure is just terrible. It's just not high enough upside to justify the fact that this will almost never actually go off, basically, is the issue. But Conviction is a card I think some people sleep on. It's an epic, so you won't see it too much, but it's just, you get so much attack damage. This card is going to be, it's practically a Bloodlust, you know, so, which we'll talk about Bloodlust later. Shaman doesn't even get Bloodlust anymore. But yeah, overall, I mean, there's definitely some potential to go for a slower strategy with Invigorating Sermon as well. But yeah, I mean, these cards are definitely good for the most part. I guess where to actually put them, I don't think I can quite put this at the same power level as Mage. I think I'm gonna put Paladin into the decent category. Definitely better than Druid. I don't think it's quite at the power level of Mage. We'll put it in the decent category. Moving on to Priest. So Priest has some really good cards and some not so great cards. Desperate Prayer, obviously not a card you really want in Arena, typically. 0 mana, do nothing. Although sometimes if you're playing a really greedy deck, sometimes that's just what you need, especially if you happen to have Zarella, and then it just becomes a board clear. But usually you won't have that, obviously. Overall, though, they got one of a really nice rank spell in Condemn. This is 1, 2, or 3 damage AoE, depending where you are in the game. Really solid card. And they got one of the best caravans as well. Your opponent's almost always going to have spells, at least one spell to copy in their deck. So, one of the ones with some real win the game by itself potential. But overall, they get a couple of these spell cards that are reliant on how many spells you have in your hand. And generally, these kind of cards are tuned in such a way that they're just not good enough. You need like at least 3, ideally 4 or more spells, and that just doesn't happen very often to make these cards good. But they do have this card which on turn 7 you can always play as an 8/8 taunt. That's always good. And the Golden Shower Elemental, also a very good defensive card. So good cards here, but yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to be... Priest is another class. They are getting... They obviously have their identity being completely changed with the core set, but they it feels again like they're kind of missing a little bit of something, you know. They're not quite replacing everything they lost, but they have good cards here. So I think I will also put Priest into the decent category. Moving on to Rogue. So Rogue has a bit of an interesting core set. They have a lot of cards that don't really fit into Arena super well. And if you look at this set, I mean, these are interesting cards. None of them are particularly bad. I mean, I don't think you're generally going to want to pick this one too much, for example. But, I mean, even like Yoink might be the worst card, but this is... It's honestly not that bad even, I don't think. If you know, you'll get something too bad. I've actually heard people in duels say they've been forced to play with this, and it hasn't been that bad for them, basically. So, you know, but otherwise, they do have one of the strongest cards in the set in Whale Reek Ambusher, which is at worst 4 mana, 4/4 deal 2, sometimes deal 4. And Octobot can really lead to some unfair situations if you play it early. The poisons are fine, and Wicked Stab is great, so I think looking at this set by itself, really there's just a lot of solid cards here. I think there's some real potential to pop off with the field contact as well. But otherwise, that's probably the worst card. And when that's the worst card in your set, it's pretty good, honestly. So I'm not sure if it's exactly what Rogue needs, but just looking at this set by itself, I mean, this looks extremely strong. Yeah, I think we'll leave it there. Moving on, next we have Shaman. Shaman, I think, is another class which is going to have a little bit of an identity crisis. If you look at some of the sets that are coming back, Shaman is getting a lot of stay alive tools, like Walking Fountain, for example, is a card that I'm sure a lot of people have missed and a lot of people have not missed. But one of the key cards they lost was Bloodlust. And if you look at like these cards, you're getting all this stuff. Like, I mean, this is like an insanely good 1-drop. And you're getting like all these 2-drop Murlocs. In Rise of Shadows, they are getting a bunch of other Murlocs coming back. But it just feels like you're probably not going to get enough of an advantage just going for a bunch of Murlocs to essentially end the game because you don't have that Bloodlust finisher. So I'm not sure if that's really going to be the best strategy. But again, like, the worst cards they have here are basically like, you know, 2-drops. The Lurker, if you have elementals, is great, but otherwise is obviously terrible. This thing comes with a hex attached, basically, but it might be a little inconsistent. They're pulled almost in 2 directions, between this Murloc direction and this elemental direction. But yeah, Chain Lightning is a really good card again. So it's a little hard. I guess, like, just looking at the individual cards, these are pretty strong, but I'm, again, a little concerned about how cohesive these Shaman decks are going to feel. I guess at least the new Strength Totem will help out with that kind of more spread strategy. I guess just going off of the power level of cards a little bit more, I think I will put Shaman into the decent category again. And again, like all these classes, or at least these 2 classes, and Rogue even, a little concerned about their direction, but you know, Shaman is still going to have cards like Guidance, and Guidance would basically solve all the problems, and we saw with our 4 Guidance run exactly how well that card by itself can solve all of your problems. So, you know, there will be that. Next we have Warlock. Warlock has... This is a very interesting set for Warlock. You look at the non-legendaries here. So they got 1 card, which is might be the worst card in the entire set. 1 mana do nothing is not ideal. Grimoire of Sacrifice can be really good, but you also, you know, you need to have a token, and decks that want this effect might not necessarily have the ability to trigger this easily, so there are issues there. There's a Caravan, which can potentially be good, but also you might not have 1-drop, so it might do nothing, which would be bad. And then you have some of these cards which are great if you have 10 or fewer cards, but again, like, I mean, you're not going to be able to really draft for that. So if you play a long game, you'll be able to get these off. You'll be able to get this as a 1 mana 6/6, but most of the time you're going to be paying full value, and this will basically just be like a 3 mana 3/3 lifesteal. So there's definitely some potential. Oh, I should mention the other card, which is maybe one of the strongest cards of the set, which is Soul Rend, which is 4 mana, 5 damage AoE. So that card is insane, and destroying a card in your deck, again, might be good, and it also might be something you don't care about. So there is that, but... And Cabal Alpha is a good zoo card too. I guess between like this, honestly, this card is really good for the strategy I like to play. Just the power level of these cards make it a little bit hard to put this anywhere below decent. It might even... I think I'll just keep it at decent. There are some very powerful cards here, but they're just not... I think the it's only a few cards. I think the power level of the set overall isn't high enough to justify a higher position. So yeah, I'll keep it there. And then last but not least, we have Warrior. So Warrior, I think, has a really great set. As opposed to some of the other classes, which really kind of have an identity crisis, Warrior knows exactly what it wants to do. They have a couple hand buff cards. I could be wrong, but I think they're even getting another hand buff card in one of the older sets, and they have this Morshan Elite, which is absolutely insane with hand buffs. Even cards like this, you know, when you're buffing like a 2/6 stat line is really great. All these frenzy synergies, also cards that are great to hand buff. And they're getting two cards that I think are going to be key for a lot of people who like to play a slower warrior, which is, first of all, Outrider's Axe, which is 4 mana 3/3 weapon, which is okay already, and then also potentially draws you 3 cards, which is insane. And if you're going to be attacking and killing a bunch of big minions, what else would you need but armor? So Rancor can give you... I think this is a card people are undervaluing a little bit because, in my experience, especially if you're playing a slower warrior, you're going to need a little bit of armor from something, because just hero powering just isn't going to be good enough by itself. So something like this kind of effect is, I think, extremely, extremely valuable. And yeah, again, like a lot of value with the Anchorman as well. So I honestly think Warrior is getting a really good set here. I think I will actually put Warrior into the amazing category as well. And I guess I'll talk about the neutral set, because I actually think if I were to rate the power level of the individual classes is actually relatively low in this set, but if we were to look at neutral by itself, neutral might actually be competitive in like at least the great or the amazing category, because there are just so many. There's some great frenzy cards. There's Mashan Watchpost, which probably just needs to be banned from the game. It's that good. And there's some really good like overstatted 4-drops. There's a 4 mana 5/7, 4 mana 5/4 with heal upside, 4 mana 5/5, a 5 that spawns a 5/8. Tarajo Brave is just going to be a really annoying card as well. There's just a lot of things here, and in certain decks, Primordial Protector is going to be the best card ever. So neutral as well. I think if it was evaluated as its own set, I don't have an icon here, but it would be at least in the great category, I think, just looking at neutral. And potentially, I think a lot of classes like Shaman really, you know, I mentioned how they have kind of an identity crisis, but if you can, you know, give this kind of a card to Shaman, it kind of potentially solves all their problems. But yeah, anyway, that's gonna be it. I think I'll be releasing this video right as the expansion goes live, so I will actually be taking the day off of work tomorrow so that I can just stream the expansion. I might do a bit of constructed, actually. I'll at least open the packs and maybe do, I don't know, we'll see what we'll do, but of course we'll play some arena as well. So if you're interested, you can definitely come check us out at twitch.tv/kolst. If you haven't been yet, it's a great place where all the YouTube people are welcome. We love seeing you guys there. But anyway, yeah, if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and you guys in Forge in the Barrens. Peace out.